Oh, I can't see the screen at all. But I don't want to have to close this. I'll have to do it that way, at least for the time being. I'm gonna knock out the medley at the top, and then I'll. Is that cipher? I don't know. I don't even know. I'm gonna knock out the medley at the top. I feel like towards the end. Whoa, my wrist pain is back. That's nice. I feel like towards the end, it 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 ends on a more positive note than I necessarily want it to. You know, it ends a little bit. I don't want to say the word happy, but I kind of like. Sorry, I like this chord into like this chord. But then like going here. Well, maybe that could be the same. I just don't want it to be like I'm trying to. I'm like on a tightrope or a fence rather, where like on one side of the fence is very very happy sounding music, I guess, like that, stuff like that. I don't want to be there. I want to be here. But I'm not trying to make the entire song sound sad. Hence why I'm putting in like the kind of waltzy. What is that chord? I think it's that chord. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is Liana here? I don't know. I don't know if Leon's here. Guys, I actually kind of panicked a little bit yesterday when I thought that my sustain pedal was broken. Sustain pedals, for those of you that do play keyboard, and even for those of you that don't, maybe this information will be at all interesting. But sustain pedals, there aren't that many companies that make sustain pedals. It's kind of like, I'm not going to say it's a monopoly, that might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but there's a company named Proline that is like the sustain pedal maker. Like yeah, you can find them at Sam Ash, you can find them at Guitar Center, you can even sometimes look out and find them like in Best Buy, back when Best Buy had a music section for that limited, weird period of time. I don't know why they stopped to do it, maybe they just weren't making any money. But anyways, there isn't that many companies that make sustain pedals. But I would say the company that makes the best over-the-counter shelf one that you're just going to see in stores is Proline, and it mimics the spring action of an actual sustain pedal. It's not going to be one of those little like pucks that you stomp on. It actually has like a spring-loaded lever system. And when you open them, I don't know if you guys are like me, where like you buy something and then you like kind of like flip it over and you're looking at the way it's built and you're like, oh, Phillips screws, I can open this, and then you just get a screwdriver and open it up. I don't know how many of you guys in there are like that. I feel like Jesse might be like that. I feel like Jesse's talked enough about pulling things apart and putting things together. But anyways, I usually will open things up, and if you open up a sustain pedal, like a lot of electronics, like a lot of functional electronics, and electronic tools like a keyboard, or I would argue even like a TV remote, like a lot of things, the majority of it isn't circuitry. It's kind of like a big case, and then you open it up and there's a lot of empty space. Like, have you guys ever opened up have you guys ever opened up a PlayStation 4 controller and just seen how much in there is actually empty space? It's a lot of empty space. So much empty space that they like add weights. If you open up a PlayStation controller, there's actually weights added in it just to make it more level, because the distribution of the circuitry actually makes the controller heavier on one side. So they add weights into one side so that it can just feel even in your hands. I open up sustain pedals when I first got them, because I'm like, oh, it's just a Phillips screwdriver. That's the only thing keeping this thing together. So I opened up the sustain pedal, and there's like nothing in there. There's like a spring, a bunch of empty space, and then a tiny little sensor that's like, if I'm being honest, it's pretty cheaply made. It's really poorly made, but I mean, it's a sustain pedal for an electronic keyboard, so sure, they're mass producing these things. It's really poorly made. And if the thing is just a little bit off, like it's, I would say 4 or 5 centimeters off, the sustain pedal just won't work. It's so annoying. And if you're like me, well, first of all, if you're like me in 2020, you have like 5 sustain pedals in your bedroom. But if you're like me in, let's say, 2017, you have 1 sustain pedal. You use it for the morning streams, and then when you go on tour, you take it and you wrap it up and you put it in a backpack. And the more moving around a sustain pedal sustains, the more likely it is that the stuff in the circuitry on the inside is going to get shifted slightly, and it's just going to become useless. It's going to be bricked. And like a lot of keyboards don't have stuff like that, because things are kind of nailed down, things are like secured in there. But a sustain pedal, the insides of a sustain pedal, I would say are secure to an extent, secure for somebody that's not going to be moving them around for very much time. And so yesterday, I have a sneaking suspicion. So while I was out of town for the weekend, I had somebody house sit kind of for me. She was here. She was in my room while I was gone. And I don't think she did anything, and I don't think she stole anything, but things feel different. Maybe I'm paranoid. But the sustain pedal thing was very weird. My sustain pedal settings were reversed. And she doesn't play keyboard, so I'm like, why would my sustain pedal be reversed? Well, what did she do? he has better fingers than me. He has better fingers than me. Sorry, I'll try to read stuff. I'll try to read stuff. Wow, stream got me looking dark. Maybe she stepped on it, says Leona. Maybe, but it's like underneath my keyboard. It's not something that's like out to step on. You'd have to be sitting here. And I mean, maybe she did that. Maybe she did that. I don't know. The more damage sustained. Sustain doesn't sound like a real word anymore, says Liam. Indeed. The concept of something being filled with empty space is kind of wild. Yeah. Alright. Word up. I can do witchy. Thanks, Taylor Nicole. Hold on. I'm gonna do something. Really quick. Ignore what's happening on screen. I'm just turning up my brightness because I can't see a dang thing. Sorry. Okay, alright. Wow, that's way better. I was like looking like Tay Diggs for a second. Okay, hi Boop. Okay, I'm gonna get back. Wow, that's actually what most of the problem was. My screen brightness was just really low. Do you have any 3/4 songs you can play in 4/4? Technically, all of my 3/4 songs also work in 4/4. I just have to like change the rhythm, obviously, around. Like some of the songs work really easy in 4/4 because if you think about something like Love Letters, which is in 3/4. I can like move the rhythm. The reason that playing Love Letters in 4/4 is easy is because I have played it a bit in 5/4. I played it in like. Some songs where the rhythm is intrinsic in the melody, and when I say intrinsic, what I mean is like if you listen to the melody from Love Letters, it doesn't really imply any specific rhythm because the notes are spaced out so far that you can kind of space them over any rhythm. You know, does that make sense? Like over 3/4. Over 4/4. Over 5/4. Wait. You can kind of, because the melody is so spaced out, you know, ding, lots of space, da 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 da, lots of space, da 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 da. There's a lot of space in between it, so you can figure it out over any rhythm. Now, for a song whose melody is or the rhythm is intrinsic in the melody, like Over and Under. play harder because there is no space between any of these notes. There's no space in between them. Which means you would have to get way more creative if I was going to try to like move it from 3/4 into a 4/4 space. But let's try. Okay. So if I'm not going to be doing this anymore, I'm obviously going to be just. That's insane. I guess I just have to play it way faster. I didn't want to have to do that. That's what my hands are doing, but that's not necessarily what I wanted to do. Oh, you know what? I have done that before. I've done that in a different song, which I can get to later. But playing like a 4/4 rhythm in the bass. So the rhythm of the song is 4/4, but the notes that I'm hitting are not fourth notes. That makes sense. So it almost gets into polyrhythmic territory. Almost. Almost. But not quite. What is that? You know what that reminds me of, actually? It reminds me of, there's, I don't know how many of you guys in the stream listen to math rock. I've talked about math rock in the stream before. I don't know how many of you guys listen to math rock on the stream, but there's an all girl band named Trico. I said Trico the first time I saw the name of this band, but I think it's Tricot. No, I think it's Tricot. Whatever. It doesn't matter. You guys know what I'm talking about, though. That's a common. The like. That is a very common thing in math rock, and their songs, several of their songs have that. They're like over a like. It's weird. But those are the only two, like, for sure. Those are the only two for sure 3/4 songs I think I have. I mean, I infuse 3/4 in a lot of other songs, like that one. But it's not like a 3/4 song, if that makes sense. Oops. No, that's stupid. That sounds dumb. Oh, we're gonna start adding harmonies to it. Okay, all right. I'm down. It's the wrong notes. It's fine. You know what this reminds me of? Streaming without a monitor reminds me of streaming on Periscope. When somebody would ask something and I was just like, hey, the comments disappear after a few seconds. You're going to have to repeat yourself. And they're like, Omni scroll. I was like, my hands are busy right now. And what's funny is I didn't start incorporating the monitor in the streams until pretty deep in the, I want to say not until like maybe 100 or more, 100 or higher. I didn't incorporate the monitor until pretty late, so having to take a step back is always so difficult. But I do remember this. I do remember having a stream and not having a reliable, legible, consistent source of what the comments were. I do remember how loud some of the Periscope comments were. They were, you know, I actually just today deleted Periscope from my phone. I thought I deleted it like a long time ago, but it was apparently still on my phone. I deleted it yesterday. And actually I had to think about it before deleting it. I was like, do I really want to delete? Like, what if I need to use it someday? What if I need to, what if I want to, what if YouTube's down and I need to stream? It was bad. The camera angle looks very good today. Thank you. Thank you, Diz. It's just so I can read stuff. Is this better for people? Is it better for you if it's this close? Something to think about. Something to think about for sure. I don't like how big I look when it's this close. I feel too big. I feel too big. I haven't figured out the second run through. So the first run through sounds like this. And then the second run through is this. And then there I get stuck. Second one doesn't seem to have a lot of, it doesn't seem to have a good flow to it like the first one does. Maybe, I don't know. I'll keep working on it. I saw Cyber earlier say witchy. I love how I don't. What is the origin of repetition legitimizes? I know that Adam Neely didn't even make it. He just says it a lot. He just says it a lot, and I hate how true it is sometimes. I hate simple truths, I guess. Just don't make it meta. Don't do that. I mean, sure, sure, but it's like it is true. It is true. There's so many times where I try to not make it true. I try to not make it true by like playing a really ugly chord and then playing a really fun chord and then playing the ugly chord again and then playing the fun chord and then playing the ugly chord again. And then if I do it about 6 times, I'm like, yeah, I can write a lead line over this. This is a song now. I can see this being like a theme to some like an overture theme to some movie or something. Even though the first chord is hideous to me, repetition does legitimize. And a lot of times when I'm playing something and it sounds like a mistake, sometimes I'll just play it a few times and see if I like it then. Because I mean, it doesn't always mean that I like it, you know. Just because something's legit doesn't mean that it's enjoyable. But I will usually legitimize things before I decide whether or not I don't like them. And it's always pretty eye-opening. That one's always so hard. I think maybe I'm sleeping on my wrist weird. Maybe I'm sleeping on it weird. Maybe that's what's doing it. made a second part for Witchy now. I never thought about making it more, you know, like melodic at that part, I guess. Harmonic and less like stabby and creepy. Thanks, Liana. Maybe I'll remember that. I like the parts that I like are this. And then I like that part. And then I like this bit. Because going from this chord, my brain wants to go. You know, see that? But I made an accident. My finger slipped, so instead of going, I went. And I kind of like that better. Stop. I'm trying to go. That hurts my hand though. There are certain chords that hurts my hands. This one is fine, but then playing this one hurts. Ooh, but hold on. If I play all 4 notes instead of 3 notes, that might help it. Okay, so. Still hurts my hand, but less so. Sometimes arpeggiating things, guys. Ow. Sometimes arpeggiating things can make it easier on your hands. If you're somebody that has small hands, I can't remember who I was. We were at a certain point in the stream. Somebody asked me what my range was, and I played it, and then they said that their range that they like couldn't do an octave or something like that. And an easy way to kind of, well, not necessarily easy, but a fix to that is just to arpeggiate all your chords. There are a lot of times where I'm doing a particular chord that is within my hand's range, like that, and playing it, particularly when I go like that. No, this chord is really hard for me to hit. But a way to make it a little bit easier on me is just to arpeggiate it. And a lot of people that don't necessarily play a lot of piano don't know how arpeggiating would help something because you're still having to hit all the notes. But when you arpeggiate something, there's a very small shift in your wrist. And this obviously, shifts your actual range that your fingers can hit. And just that small pivot is enough to take the strain off of your fingers. Just this much wiggling between your wrists is better than having to have your wrists centralized between all the notes and have to hit them all at the same time, being able to do arps. So I do arps a lot, actually. In fact, most of my bass line, those, if you look at my wrist, there's a slight shift in my wrist. And that's just because it makes it a little bit easier to play. Like if you look at key line, it would sound more boring too, but if I just played it without the art, not only does it sound more boring, but I can actually feel a little bit more tension in my left hand because it's having to like constantly be spread on these huge ranges instead of like kind of doing this nice pivot dance between them. So if you're somebody that has smaller hands, or you just are sick of your hands, your fingers specifically instead of your hands getting like sore from stretching and playing weird intervals and ranges, that could be something that could help you. Could be something that could help you. I've talked recently, or frequently, I should say, in the stream about making something, whether it's music, it can be anything, but creating anything, and the idea just flowed so naturally from you that you were convinced there's no way you made it. You must have just like witnessed it or heard it somewhere or seen it somewhere, and then like internalized it, and then it just came out one day in your creative process. That's something I think about a lot. And I mean, obviously, there's a limited amount of piano notes, so essentially every like chord progression has been done anyway. And if every chord progression within reason has been created, then for a lot of like easy, natural sounding melodies over them, a lot of those have to exist too. You know, a lot of those melodies have to exist even over those same chords. So if you're hitting a chord progression and you're hitting a similar melody, there's been a lot of times where I've spent time where I was around, you know, a piece of media. Maybe I was watching an anime with somebody. Maybe I was playing a video game with someone. Maybe I was watching a K drama with somebody, or what have you. And then a song comes on, and then the person next to me goes, "Oh my God, they stole the thing from that," or like this. I think they just used that. Like, what is that a sample of? And I'm like, I don't actually think that that's a sample. I think that there's just a finite amount of chords, and if you if you spend a lot of time in music, and a lot of time being kind of relative, right? What? Who just got a new TV in the mail? Oh, did your new 4K TV come? Did it just come? Cyber? But, what was I saying? Oh yeah, if you spend a lot of time around music, sometimes the kind of, the gray area becomes a little bit more white or black between what is clearly a ripped sample of something and what is more so just kind of a common thing that probably happens that wasn't necessarily intentional. Certain chord progressions, like like those are in a bunch of songs, you know, jazz or not jazz, pop or not pop. Those songs are everywhere. I mean, those chord changes are everywhere, and so it becomes really hard to hear them and go like, oh, that's from blank. You know, it's kind of like how everybody was posting those. I was really late to that, by the way. Everybody was posting like the the lick, and how many times it has occurred on video in like jazz performances. And I was late to that train, but then once I heard it, I was like, yeah, I don't think all these people are copying off of each other. When I can't remember his name, but when homie, maybe his name was Gregory or something. When he came to my place, he told me I played the lick, and I was like, I don't even know what that is, but apparently I played it. I think some things just kind of naturally occur because patterns. I don't know. There is a finite amount of possibilities when you're playing piano. There are things I've done in the past, like memorizing a monologue in a script and thinking, how did I do that? It doesn't feel like it was me that did that. I can relate to that. Maximilian says, but music is about more than chords or even everything you can note down. It's also about timbre, feel, performance, if played live. A Beatles recording is different from a bad cover of it. I'm not saying, you're absolutely right, Max. Nowhere in this conversation am I implying that music is reductive as only being a series of chords and melodies. But I'm saying that a lot of times that is what the legality of music copyright is based off of. So if I sing a Beatles song or if I play a Beatles song and I use a different, guitar tone, it's not going to help me in court. And so a lot of times when I'm making music down, unfortunately, I do have to think of the legality of like, crap, is this something? And is this something that can encroach upon copyright? I probably should have led with that. This is more so a legal conversation. Because if there was no copyright, which is a legal term, if there was no copyright on music, then this wouldn't be an issue for me at all. I would just make whatever I wanted, and if somebody said, I think that is in something, I'd be like, oh, well, whatever, I don't care. But there are a few times where an idea falls a little bit too easily out of me, and I have to make this distinction, sorry. I have to make this distinction whether or not that is just a low-hanging fruit or if it's a very, very specific fruit that I have eaten before and forgotten its origins. Because this... I feel like that is a very, very, very low-hanging fruit. I feel like that probably exists in a bunch of songs. It probably exists in a bunch of classical songs. It probably exists in a bunch of like anime scores. It probably exists in a video game score somewhere. It probably exists on just someone's album somewhere. Because these descending chords... is just so typical. It's like it's very easy flow when compared to something like Chaser. Like those chords are a little bit more like, oh, okay, I haven't necessarily been beaten over the head with this a million times in my experience in music. But something like that, very, very common. And so now that I've gotten out of the bubble that, oh, this is a unique chord progression, I know this chord progression has appeared a lot. It's pretty frequent. When I'm doing the lead line over it, I don't even think the melody can be that unique because it's being played over those very typical chords, and it's always hitting a note in the chord. It's always hitting a note in the chord. So it can only be so unique. And so when I'm playing this song and I'm like, oh, I made this in a stream a few weeks ago. I'm like, I'm like, yeah, I did make this song in the stream a couple of weeks ago. I did make it. But how much of it did I naturally arrive at, and how much of it was sitting in the recesses of my brain from when I heard it the first time? I like it when I take a break from the signal songs for a little while. I mean, never from all of them, but just for like one or two of them. Because I'm able to appreciate them again. Wow. I think, crap, what's the name of that game? Has anybody? I've asked this before on this in the stream. Has anybody played the game Professor Layton? I think that's what it's called. Professor Layton. Please, please, just one person. That's all I need. I need one person. I think it was a DS game, perhaps. No, those weren't the chords. It was. Where's? I wish I had like a cool like a. That's not it, but. It was like. A lot of times when making songs, especially over there at FL Studios, it's like I'll have a vocal melody in my head, and I'll have the chords in my head, but because I've gotten so used to playing solo piano, um, there's a specific range that I usually live in, which is right around here. Like a lot of my songs, like a lot of the meat of my songs, live kind of. Let's try to get like I'll even say like right out here in this octave specifically here. And the problem with this is it spreads me pretty thin, so a lot of my chords will end up taking two hands. There are a few significant exceptions where I do like chords with the left hand, melodies with the right hand. Signals were a pretty good example of this. If you think of like Spring Street, chords with the left hand, melody with the right hand. platter is also like that. Chords with the left hand, melody with the right hand. Also Union Station, Winter Heart. So it goes on like that. There's a lot of examples of me splitting up the chords into my left hand and the melody into my right hand for signals, because like I had a very strong sense of a strong song structure, like where exactly the verses were, where the melody line would be, the lead would be, and where exactly the chords were, bass line, etc. But there are a lot of songs that I have where it's a little bit more gray, like things kind of merge a little bit. There's a thing called voice leading, which is usually when you take the lead from, I mean, I could possibly be like poorly defining this, by the way, but from what my understanding is, when you take a lead from your chord progression, so you're just playing the chord progression, and usually whatever the notes in the lead like appear in the chords. So you can like play the chords, i.e. key lime, because the melody lives within the chords. I'm not having to split them up. I'm not having to hit the chords of key lime with my left hand, and then the melody with my right hand somewhere. Yeah, I'm messing up anyway. And so I have way more examples of songs that use that build instead. If you think about Into Thin Air, see how the melody's kind of baked into the chord progression? These are all chords. Chord, 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 chord. They're all chords. But it's the melody that's also baked into them. That's what a lot of my more modern songs are doing. They're usually taking the melody and they're baking it into the chord, so I can have an easy time playing a chord progression, and the melody is intrinsically part of it. I can't separate them. I can't separate the chords and the melody from each other in a song like Clover Salad, for example. Because if you listen to it, the first note of the melody, second note of the melody, see how it's a chord? And it's not like my right hand's playing this and my left hand's playing the chord. It's all together. Voice leading. There's a lot of chords baked into the melody in these songs. The reason I'm bringing this up is because there are a lot of times when I'm trying to translate my music to a computer or to like FL Studio, and I have to play it in a weird way because now I need to take away some of the left hand so that I can make room for a bass instrument, whether that instrument is bass guitar, a bass synthesizer, a bass, a double bass, an upright bass, just something for the low end. I have to take away some of this in my left hand in order to translate it properly over to FL Studio. So it doesn't just translate in smoothly. I have to start picking things apart and taking things away. And the song ends up becoming kind of a weird Frankenstein version of itself, where it's not necessarily the notes anymore. It's not just the notes, recorded into FL Studio. Now it's like things have been taken apart, things have been completely deleted, things have been moved, things have been added. And so when I am going from a very complicated song like that, where it's the more complex chords, right, that take two hands, and I have to now put a lead on top of them, it's a little bit hard to perform. Like, it would be nice if I had a third hand, because if I look at these chords, it's a good example of a song that has pretty complicated chords. Oh, well, the one I was just playing. that chord progression obviously takes both of my hands because some of the chord changes are kind of relying on that bass. That walking bass makes that chord. And so if my hands are that engaged in this very like taxing chord progression, I don't have any extra hands to play a lead over it. And so a lot of times when it comes to, I'm not going to use the word transcribing because that involves writing music, which I'm not exactly doing. But when it comes to translating things to be able to be played easily on piano, melody and chord progression involved, what I typically have to do is take like a chord progression like this and go, well, how can I play that with one hand? I can hit this chord. See how hollow it ends up sounding? You just can't play all the notes because you don't have enough fingers or hands. And a few examples of this happening in actual songs that I've recorded is Love Letters. There's a part in Love Letters where the lead comes in for the hook, and I actually have to take away quite a few notes from the chord progression because the chord progression for the recorded version of Love Letters sounds like this. So the chords are basically sorry. So there's a lot of notes in each chord. Even just in the first chord, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 notes in that first chord for Love Letters. 7, 8 notes in the first chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 notes in the second chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 notes in the third chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So only 6 notes in the fourth chord. Trash man's here. He's gonna do his thing. But when I have to come in and play this lead line, I obviously don't have my right hand to help with these chords. And if you take the first chord, second chord, third chord, fourth chord, and you remove the right hand from just the first chord, it sounds like this. Which is still nice, and it's still a chord, and it's still pretty. But it is not, it doesn't have, it's missing half of its notes. So what I have to do is I have to play the most simplified version of this chord that I can play with one hand, which ends up being this. It keeps those higher notes. It keeps the higher notes that give that chord its quality. It's losing all of the bass stuff, but it still has this up here. And so what should be, I can only do it so much. Sound way more full and rich. I just don't have the fingers available, so it ends up sounding kind of hollow to me by comparison. A little hollow, but it ends up working in the overall, I'll say, narrative of the song. How the narrative of the song kind of has these like deep, crunchier chords, and then when the lead comes in, it kind of opens up a little bit. Give it some variation because the second that I end this this high bit, I come back down at the bottom. But the songs I'm going in and playing more so recently, like a lot of times when somebody's like, I really wish that there was a morning medley improv piano version of this song that you have, and I'll go and I'm like, I can do that. I didn't make this song, and I'll go and listen to it, and like it's easier when it's a song like a Lush Stream song, right? Like I can play Lush Stream songs on the stream all day because all those songs are really simple. Even some of the more sample heavy Lush Stream songs, because if I take a song like Embrace, this one, it's only two chords and the melody is very, very simple. And that song is sampled in Lush Dream in the song Button Willow. And I think the notes are. Oh my god, I'm very impressed with myself. Okay, hold on. So I can still play a live piano version of Button Willow too, and it still works. It still works out because, again, simple chords, simple melody. But then when people want me to make maybe like a live version of maybe Daydream songs, those ones are a little bit harder. Particularly the bridge in Cold, as well as the bridge in Uptown Sizzle is difficult because I actually went over and I played like chords, on the piano, and I recorded them. And then I went over the top of that, and then I played leads on the piano. So technically, there are more than two of my hands playing at any given time in those songs. And so then I have to go, okay, how do I make a 10-fingered arrangement of this? How do I make a version of this song that is going to be playable by me and my two hands, but also not sound hollow and empty and degraded somehow by comparison to the original working of it. Even a song like Close Down. Even that song, I had to strip quite a bit away from it. Clearly, I mean, if you've heard the song, it's a lot hollower than the actual recorded version is. And I'm not even just talking about percussion, I'm talking about actual notes. I had to strip out quite a few of the notes and just turn it into, a few chords so that I could drive home the part that I think matters, which is the melody. I think if most people are listening to Close Down, what the part that they're going to take away is the melody of the song. Because that's what my voice is hitting, that's what the lyrics are in. So sometimes translating things to a piano can be easy, sometimes it can be very difficult, sometimes they can be nigh impossible. Like there are a few of my songs that I don't even try, and mostly because I know it'll be very time consuming and I don't think the outcome would sound good. For example, a song like Sugar Glider. I could probably do the intro for it, no problem, and the opening verse. But once I get into the bridge, there's so much going on, so much nonsensical stuff that would take like 4 of my hands to play effectively, that if I strip away 2 of those 4 hands, it sounds so hollow and so empty and ungrounded. So I just don't usually even try. I don't even make the attempt, typically, when it comes to like translating those things. But that being said, the song that I was working on Friday, that one did. I think usually what I do is I sing or hum, which I've talked about this before with voice leading. I usually hum the pinky of the chord progression. It's called voice leading, but typically when I'm playing a chord progression, and actually when most people are hearing a chord progression, they will gravitate towards the highest note in the chord progression and deem that the melody. Just because in frequencies, usually what's sitting right on top within a certain understandable range, because obviously we can get high into frequencies that the human ear can't even perceive. But usually if you're hearing a lot of different notes, the human ear will gravitate to whatever note is on the very top, typically. And so if I play a chord progression, the chord progression is... If the chord progression is... Yeah, that's better. If I play that, most people, if they have to pick the melody for that's happening here, they're going to pick the pinky notes. They're just going to hear the pinky notes because they're on top of all the other notes. And so, knowing that, when I'm playing a chord progression like the one I was playing on Friday, melody that I'm hearing is da 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 da, and I think those are the pinky notes. So da, 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 no, da, 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 and it is. It's just whatever the highest note is there. So sometimes like when I'm playing music on the piano, I will tend to voice lead. I'll try to bake a melody in. I don't really, on piano, when I'm developing a song for you guys here, I don't come up with a chord progression and then try to come up with a melody typically. Usually the melody is baked into the chord progression. If you think about yesterday's stream, if you were actually present for yesterday's stream, I did mistakenly happen upon these chords. And for those of you that were there, an important thing to notice is that I didn't come up with the chords and go like, oh, these are fun, and then later come up with melodies. I was filling out the chords with a leading note. And so that way, when I'm performing the song, it's never like, it's very, very rarely, in my modern songs, I'm not talking about my older songs, because if you listen to one of my older songs, it's very, very easy to pinpoint where the melody is and where the chords are. You know, if somebody were to play for you, Signals, you would know exactly where the melody and the chords are. The melody is up here, and the chords are down here. And so that's for my older music. My more modern music, again, I kind of weave the two in together as much as I possibly can. This isn't necessarily even always a conscious choice. It's more so just a thing that feels good to me to have both hands engaged and pretty close together. I'm very rarely playing piano like this for an extended period of time. It's usually in like a bridge of a song as a departure, I'll go up really high to bring it back down. But I'm very rarely, composing chord progressions or bass line and melody or chords. I'm always composing them kind of in this amalgamous shifting form in the middle. And so a good thing about that is it's a lot harder to forget songs. I've definitely played with people before, because I used to play in several bands, and there have been times where I've played with people that have forgotten a chord progression to one of their songs, or forgotten the melody to one of their songs, and have, made do or eventually remembered it. But for mine, since they're all kind of this tied together adhesive chunk, I either forget it all or I'll forget nothing. Or sometimes I'll forget a specific section. But when I forget a section, I'm forgetting chords, bass line, melody, all of it. I'm not necessarily remembering one part and not the other. Like Clover Salad. I can't forget a part of it without forgetting the entire thing, because it's all one piece. Now, a good thing about this is it makes me look at the song as more of one solid structure instead of a collection of small pieces, which makes it easier for me to perform. It makes it harder for me to forget. But one thing that does kind of suck about this is it's almost impossible for me to just play the melody of those songs. I can just play the melody of Love Letters, because the melody is pretty separate from the actual chords. But for a lot of these songs like Clover Salad, Into Thin Air, even the Witchy song to a certain extent, once we start getting into the newer parts that I added, things get a little bit hard to separate. They're all kind of one. Even Winter Heart to a certain degree. I can play the Winter Heart melody. I'm messing up a lot. I'm messing up quite a bit in it, and that's because I don't have my left hand there. I remember the two parts, even I'm seeing now when they're separate, in tandem with one another. And this part, particularly this part of Winter Heart, particularly that part of Winter Heart is a pretty huge challenge for me because I'm not thinking necessarily about the notes as I'm hitting them. I'm never really thinking about the notes, if that makes sense. Um, More so what I'm thinking about there is like the rhythm and placement of my hands. And so if I play it really slow, it's hard for me to get in the chords. I never actually know the chords to that section. I'm never actually looking at my left hand, and the times where I've tried to play that chord progression while looking at my left hand, I always mess it up because I don't actually know what the chords are. I only know what they are in relation to where my hands are when I'm hitting, if that makes sense. I hope. I hope that makes any sense at all. Ooh, I think I'm actually gonna go over the news and hold on. I think I'm gonna go over the news and chop it and chop it. With respect, of course. Hold on. Wow. Yeah. Today's for those that didn't know, today's a short stream just because I have a meeting at 11 and I haven't prepped for it yet. So I'm going to do news now. I do have quite a bit of music out. I've got Signals, I've got House of Omni, I've got Tall Tales, Nice Dream, Love Dream, Speed Dream, Daydream, Lust Dream, Ego Dev, and Quick Breath. All can be heard on Bandcamp, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Google Play, Amazon MP3, Tidal, Groove, Deezer, Pandora, Napster, and YouTube. Check it out when you get a chance. If not, it's not going anywhere. It'll still be here tomorrow. There is going to be a production stream this Friday. It's going to go, I mean, as usual. I think usually what I try to do every Friday is I try to have a new song started as well as a song that's practiced, like a new song started as well as a song that I've started in the previous stream and then add to the song in the previous stream. And typically what I've done is every Friday I start a new song. I may make this the first Friday that I forego that and instead just focus on the songs that I have and try to get them looking a certain way. Now, if inspiration strikes or if I get a cool idea or whatever, I definitely will try to start something new. But I feel like what's happening is I've started a bunch of songs and some of them are gradually being finished, which is really nice. But I've started a bunch of songs and every Friday I'll add a new one. And sometimes those new ones don't go anywhere, like the chicken song that I had. So this Friday is mostly going to be review, or at least that's what I'm saying so far. That's where I'm at creatively. I would like for it to be mostly a review and work on the things that I've started in previous streams, type stream. And so that's news about that. I will not be doing any Christmas video. I'm not going to make anything. I'm trying to hold myself to that, not making anything until next year. At least for like Instagram, Twitter, anything like that. I'm not going to post any videos until next year. Been thinking about what that video might look like or what the nature of it might be, but as far as making anything, I feel like I've gone this long. Might as well just go out the rest of the year. There's nothing too wild happening. On my side anyway. So this is Hush Shower. I made Hush Shower I made Hush Shower technically a really long time ago, or the framework for it, anyway, was made a pretty long time ago. But the final version of it that is recorded, and the version of it that I play in the streams most days, is the version that was developed while I was abroad. I think the arrangement of the ending arp of Hush Hour changes slightly every time. Okay, that's it. That's it for today's stream. Hopefully, I have my monitor tomorrow so I can actually read comments reliably. But until then, please enjoy the rest of your guys' day. It is Tuesday. I think I'm gonna, at some point, I'm gonna get out of here and get pizza. But I gotta finish this meeting, and then I have an internet person coming to service my internet, hopefully, so that the Friday streams are reliably stable. I guess. Um, Thank you always for everybody for being in the stream. I do appreciate it. Also, thank you for being respectful to me and polite to each other. I will be here tomorrow for morning medley number 268. And hopefully I will see you then, but if not, enjoy your week. Mm-hmm.